Hello there, and a very warm welcome to another edition, actually the first edition of 2022 of the Beam right here on Channels Television. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, Nigeria's tech sector witnessed a boom last year, especially in the fintech sector, with funding coming in left, right, and center as Nigerians relied on these technologies to connect with families, friends, and business associates. So today on the program, we will be looking at the legal frameworks and regulation guarding the operation of these fintech companies. We will also look at other opportunities that are abound in the tech space as we begin the new year, searching for more opportunities. Now, joining us to look at this, we have a full-stack developer majoring in Ethereum, blockchain, DevOps, and machine learning. Jude DK, he is the CEO of Get Equity, a company that has a sole purpose of making blockchain-based equity investments in African startups a reality. Jude, it's a pleasure to have you on the program today. Indeed. Your mic is on mute, so if you unmute your mic as the program progresses. But also joining us is Mercy George Igbafe. She is a self-taught educator, agile data enthusiast with expertise in business analysis, project management, and digital marketing. I beg your pardon. She is a trainer and a mentor with over 5 years experience in digital technologies. It's a pleasure to have you as well.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to all the Beam viewers, and thank you, Channels, for having me.
Of course, you're welcome anytime. I'm sure Jude is a gentleman, so he would, want you to go first, as they usually say, ladies first. I mean, it's the new year, all of these things, you kind of just fall in line. But so let me just have you kickstart this conversation for us. I mean, last year was, so good for fintech companies in the country. But, in your estimation, I mean, that's what we saw on face value, but in your estimation, behind the scenes, what did you think stood out for you, in that sector in the past year?
First, I just want to say a massive congratulations to startups, the fintech startup in Nigeria, because they've spotlighted Nigerians' intellect, talent, and brilliance, because the amount of money that has been generated as a result of the fintech is something that is worth commendation, from Paystack to raising money, Flutterwave, to a lot of them. And we keep seeing the trend still going and still soaring. For me, one of the things that stands out is the fact that there are opportunities in the tech space. Yeah. And for me, I'm very passionate about capacity development. So the fintech industries are thriving right now. Number one, it's time for a lot of our young people to open their minds to the fact that there are opportunities career-wise, either as a cybersecurity professional, either as a financial consultant, whatever portfolio you want to carry, as a business analyst, even the fintech industry, they have project managers. There are tons of opportunity for a fintech startup. But where do you plug in? Yes. And even coming with the fintech comes with the risk, because we were talking earlier and we're talking about the risk, regulation around that. And that's why you have regulatory bodies like the NDPR, the GDPR, that are front-running data privacy and protection of the users. So I think for me, there are opportunities, there are risks equally to consider, which gives more people opportunity to learn.
All right, I'll come back to you, in terms of, the risks as well as the opportunities. But let me go back to Zoom, where we have Jude DK joining us. Jude, again, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. So we're looking at, regulations, and all of that, regarding the operation of fintech companies. As a player in this space, where would you say we have gotten it right that has made us attract all of this attention in the past year?
Okay, so in the first instance, I would say a lot of Nigerian startups have brought the infrastructure. And I noticed, yes, we started with talking about fintech, and one of the beauties of fintech is because the infrastructure angle on financial technology in Nigeria is at a point where a lot of things have been gotten right. We've spent a couple of years iterating and reiterating, and now we've gotten to the point where, yes, we can say, even though there's still more to happen, our forebearers in terms of the InterSwitches, the Flutterwaves, the main ones, have done quite a lot in terms of infrastructure and also regulatory, because I think we'll start with when maybe an interswitch came out. There was a lot in terms of payments and payment regulation that wasn't available at that time that they had to battle. And now I think the word in this case would be they walked so we could run. And hopefully we can run so the next generation can fly.
Pretty much you're drinking from the rocks that they broke for water to flow from.
Exactly.
So the other part. I'm also so now we're looking at moving forward. I mean, it's a new year. So much has happened last year that you would expect some. How would I put it now? Like you expect everyone to consolidate on. So expect some consolidation, so to speak. What areas would you say needs to be watertight or to be tightened? You know, for this consolidation to bring about more investments in the space.
Okay, so I'll say the first is data security. There are a few startups that are really trying in that angle. There's Mono, I mean, Flutterwave themselves are doing a lot. I would also say in terms of regulation, now we're looking at more lawyers coming into the startup ecosystem to work on regulatory risk and compliance. So I mean, the thing at first is that you have some compliance from the CBN, some compliance from the SEC, some compliance from NICTA. It's almost like as a startup, you have quite a lot that you need to tailor to at the same time. I feel the consolidation in terms of our regulators and coming out with maybe our regulators coming out with something more consolidated would help in terms of where you know that these are the rules that you're looking forward to, or these are the rules that you have to follow through with, and that they don't change. Because one of the biggest questions you have to ask or you have to answer as a startup speaking with international investors is the volatility in terms of regulation. And I mean, in some ways, the only thing you can do is try to cross your eyes, dot your T's, and hope for the best. But I think the more we tend to meet and converse with our regulators, the better it is that it helps us in the long term, because I feel like there's a time coming where we'll have more of consolidated regulatory infrastructure, and that's what we're all hoping for.
Well, we can't wait for that to happen. And like you said, that conversation needs to, be on the top burner. Like it has to be continuous. So while you think about all of those things, let me just hold you for a bit, and let me get from a few of your thoughts, because one of the things that both of you agree on, is security. I mean, data security and all of that. What's the vulnerability possibility as it stands?
First, I was checking on FTC's website. It says there were 4.8 million security breach in 2022.
In Nigeria?
Just globally.
Okay.
Globally. And when he talked about regulation and compliance, it just brings to mind. I remember in our cohort, we had a training on data protection privacy. And this was done by a certified data protection officer. Yeah. As a fintech right now, it is imperative that when you're spending, you must allocate budget to hiring a data protection officer, because there are gaps. So as much as we're growing, there are equally vulnerability. There are no regulations, although we have the NDPR regulation. How much of that?
How effective is that?
Exactly, that's the real question. How effective, even those that are within the regulatory body, are they well savvy within the sector to understand what ethical hacking is all about, what cybersecurity threat is all about, So there was, I think it was last year that we got somebody from the US to come train on cybersecurity and to get our people exposed with the opportunity that is out there. And it was going to come additionally with opportunity to go on further in the US. The question is, how prepared are you for the job market today? This calls for opportunity. There are regulatory bodies in Nigeria. We have NDPR, Nigerian Data Protection Regulation. Yes, we have the GDPR,
where
you saw it's European Union. You saw a lot of slam dunk happening to the Facebook, the Google, all of them due to data breaches, and they paid tons of millions of dollars.
Pretty much the government can also plug into this
exactly.
if they make the NDPR. effective.
It's not just having the regulatory body. You need the people that are savvy to be able to make sure the implementation goes through. There's so much data breaches every day, from your WhatsApp to the invasion. You know, there are laws against you sharing certain content on WhatsApp internationally. You will face the wrath of the law. That is been documented. So I remember somebody traveling to the US. This is literally something that happened in 2020. Went to the US, had some pornographic stuff on their WhatsApp, and he created an eyebrow that they had him kept at the airport. But what are
the holding room, so to speak?
In the holding rooms, you know, and to interrogate further to understand, although the person was released. But the thing is, Nigeria, is time to work. Digital is the way. It's not about, you know, when the people say future of work, you think it sounds like in another 10 years. Future of work happened 10 years ago.
So we're playing catch up.
We're not even there. So playing catch up means that you're there. We're not playing catch up because our people are not woke to the reality that tech is the future. If your business is not digitally transformed or really tech enabled, you are not there. It's time to wake up, and that's why the fintech industry has done a slam dunk. Even on the bank, that they are playing catch up with the fintech companies that just started like a year ago. So it's a wake up call for our leaders, for CEOs, for decision makers to understand it's time to get our people reskilled. It's time to get our people upskilled. And what are the skills that you're required today? You need skill as a cybersecurity professional, as a data analyst, understanding machine learning, understanding regulatory policies around data. So if our decision makers, which are the executives in organizations, are not woke to this reality, then we are still, it's a long road.
It seems like it's a potpourri of opportunities,
yes,
in there. But let me again go back to Jude, who's on Zoom. Jude, you know, the issue of these gaps, you know, that exists now, cybersecurity. I'm pretty much scared. I mean, my data is out there. You know, your accounts and all of that are out there, and then there are those people who are just, you know, lurking, waiting for you to have that slip, and before you know it, you know, your data is gone, your finances are gone. I mean, how do we stop all of this? What can we do to bridge this gap that exists?
So I think the first is education, security education. I mean, in our own ways, right? One of the first things that we start to do is educate our parents, educate our friends on the type of things you should share on WhatsApp, on things like WhatsApp, Facebook, the type of information you should click on. And then in our own way, like she was talking about, there has to be people like us being allowed into rooms where these kind of decisions are made. Because when the decision makers are in a separate world or cut away from the actual people doing the implementation, you start to see a difference. And it's something that we've noticed over and over and over again. We started to see this in banks, and we start to see the disparity in banks and fintech, like she said.
Yeah. So let me just quickly, Jude, let me quickly get this. I mean, so when you talk about rooms, you know, that people like you who are players in the industry should be in, you know, where can those rooms be found?
I mean, one of the major things you start to see where regulation is being made and stakeholders are being requested for,
so
stakeholders are being brought in.
Yeah, what I meant, what agencies, you know, especially of government, you know, should or are handling this, that, you know, should have all of you, you know, in the room to speak about this?
Okay, so I'll give an example in terms of mine. You start to see CBN policies on data, CBN policies on infrastructure, CBN policies on security. And one thing that happens is we wake up one morning and we see a new CBN policy. But for the companies or the beneficiaries of these policies, meaning the startups who are also stakeholders, it's all.
Oh, we're losing Jude there for a bit, but just hold. I know you have a lot to say, but just hold it for a bit. We need to take a quick break, and when we come back, of course, we'll get more reactions on this. Please stay with us. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, you're watching Channels Beam, coming to you live from Channels Television. We've been discussing issues around regulations in the fintech space or subsector in the tech sector. But just before we went on break, Jude DK, who is the CEO of Get Equity, was talking about, some of the places or some of the government agencies and regulatory agencies, that need to straighten out certain things for those coming up to have a field day in the space. So, Jude, we lost you there for a minute, but you were talking about the CBN regulations. If you could just come over that again.
Okay, so what I was talking about was we tend to see where regulations come out, without warning, for example, and in some instances, I mean, you hear that stakeholders were consulted, but then you wonder if the startup ecosystem, the fintech ecosystem, is part of that stakeholders or are part of those stakeholders. And it's the same thing we see in terms of, I think the SEC has been more forthcoming in the fact that they've tried as much as possible to bring startups who are interested in following the SEC processes. I think we'd like to see a lot more from people like NITA, from people like the CBN. Yeah, that's pretty much that on our own instance.
All right. You kind of nodded in. I don't know if it was in concurrence or
Yes.
otherwise, but so what's your take on that?
I totally agree with him. There needs to be a roundtable conversation. Oftentimes, this conversation that they tend to have, in quote, with stakeholders, often come from expatriates. So Nigeria is a very complicated country. I mean, our number one problem is our mindset. Our mindset is really out of whatever it is. So we always often want to seek help from abroad.
How many of those meetings are you aware of?
No, so what I just want to say to this is, oftentimes, stakeholders' engagement is often done with expatriates that come with a solution mindset to a culturally diverse situation. So stakeholders that need to be consulted, people like us, we need to have interface with NIDA. We need to have interface with the Ministry of Digital Economy. We need to talk to them, especially with empowering our youth. When you're making regulation, who are the people? Are they skilled? There's something called the POPIC model in business analysis, which talks about the people, the processes, the organizational infrastructure, and the IT. So if you're doing a regulation, you want to do an implementation, and you're just looking at just regulation, you forget about the people that is going to bring this regulation into implementation. You have failed. So there's a problem there. Then number two, you are not putting processes that they need to follow to make sure this IT infrastructure is successful. So when we come up with a lot of big bogus documentation and we say, yes, this is a regulation, we just wake up and just come up with one regulatory policy and just scatter a business. So for me, I think it's important, let's have an open dialogue. It doesn't have to be in a secret corner. Zoom, call stakeholders, open it into, let people come in and have their opinion. This is the way, this is our suggestion. Let them through their suggestion. Now it is your decision to say, this is a good one, this is not a good one. But just sitting with a bunch of people that are stakeholder, I've never been called for any conversation or a roundtable, so I'm not privy to this. So there are fintech, young guys doing great stuff, but they need the guidance, they need the regulatory process put in place. They need to be clear. There has to be transparency, even with the processes, for people to say, I would like to adhere to this. And that's where Agile comes in. And that's why the world is taking over, leveraging Agile way of working.
Well, this is pretty much something that should be looked at, moving forward. But I mean, I think we've kind of dwelled so much on fintech, all through the conversation. But generally, I mean, we're moving forward 2022. There are so many unemployed people out there that are looking at, having opportunities. What other opportunities lie in tech, that people can actually, plug themselves into as we get into this year?
This comes to where my body aches and I'm so passionate about. So right now...
You mean the volcano you is erupting?
Yeah, the volcano has erupted, indeed. So according to Nigerian Bureau of Statistics and the World Bank, unemployment as at 2021, January, the first quarter of 2021, it says unemployment is at 46%. On Channels, the boss of EFCC, during his interview, I heard him say that by 2030, Nigerian youth, 60% of Nigerian youth will be labeled criminals. If this doesn't sink into the minds of our parents, to stakeholders, to CEOs, to companies, directors, they need to rethink this, because this is a scary number. Active population of Nigeria is 65%, the youth. Means 60% of the youth are going to be labeled criminals. We have trust issues. Now, let's talk about digital opportunity that our young people are not even exposed to. If you watch this scamming boys, Yahoo guys, the amount of energy that they put into scamming, it doesn't come easy. Just imagine you learning data analytics. Within the data analytics career, there are 11 career paths. There's machine learning, there's business analysis, analyst as a data analyst, there's project manager as a data analyst, there is a data business intelligence professional, there is a data administration. That's 11 career paths in one just skill set that you can develop. There is cybersecurity, which all this training, we put them out there. But you know what? Many people don't even embrace. We spend money on buying human hair, 500K, buying clothes at Shwebi. You understand? The way we waste money is something that breaks my heart. I've warned everybody, don't bring me a Shwebi, I will never buy, because I wouldn't spend money in those things. Start to spend money on personal development. Their careers as a cybersecurity professional, we just talked about fintech. Yeah. Massive opportunity. I checked on stats for the US. People that apply for ethical hacking cybersecurity jobs, you know what their age demographic is? From 40 years and above. There are not many young people there, which are skills that you can learn. They are not rocket science of things that you need to go and do so much work. Because when people hear of tech, they think, oh, it's so hard. We had a 65-year-old person take our program. We had an MD take our program. So anybody can learn it. Yeah. My 9-year-old right now, they are the ones doing my job, because I've trained them in the digital skills. Asia start to train their young ones from the age of 4 in tech. Why wouldn't they take over the world and be doing virtual reality and come up with a lot of digital product that we end up buying? So it's time for us to work. There's data analytics, cybersecurity, there is business intelligence professional, there is a Scrum Master, which is all over the world.
All right. I know you can go on and on and on, but let me just also quickly get Jude's take on this as the closing shots before we wind down on the conversation. Jude, in your own estimation, which other aspects of tech do you think people should look into, you know, as they go into 2022, looking for jobs and also, you know, trying to get their finances, you know, on an upper part?
Okay, so in this instance, I'd say, you know, complete with what Mercy is saying. One thing that people tend to see with tech is that they expect tech to be all technical, you write code, and I've heard a lot of people say, oh, they don't know how to do that, they don't know how to write code. And one of the first things that we tend to tell people is that not everything has to do with code. In many instances, your regular domain, you're a finance person, you're in healthcare, whatever it is that you do, are you in media? All these things are needed in the tech ecosystem, just like where we had our, where we had the industrial boom, now we have the tech boom, which means that every current domain right now that exists is needed in tech. And there are pipelines, there are companies that help out with, you know, bringing people transitioning into tech. There's Phillies Africa, there's Chico's Africa, there's non-tech aids, and I'm pretty sure...
You know, like I said earlier, it seems there's just a potpourri. People just need that education, you know, to know what works for them. But
I think it's just a guiding point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have to say thank you to you for joining us today on the program. Jude DK, CEO, Get Equity, thanks again for joining us on the program today. You joined us via Zoom from Lagos. Mercy George Igbafe, thanks as well for joining us on the program and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you so much
with that fiery, you know, postulation. But thanks again for joining us on the program. But that's where we are on this. Again, this is the first show of the year, and that's where we're going to wrap it up. But we'll leave you with the most videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
The video of the arrest of a 20-year-old notorious bandit in Zamfara kicks off the most viewed videos of the week.
He was arrested with his operational AK-47 rifle, double magazine with 3 rounds of live ammunition, and 1 Boxer motorcycle, which he used for the operations.
It is followed in 4th place by the parade of 5 bandit collaborators and 21 other suspects. Third spot sees the former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, reading the riot acts to his successor.
But I'm yet to see what kind of offense Oluche wants to have committed to warrant this discretion of the church, sporadic shootings.
In second, again, is the former governor speaking about how the mystery of unknown gunmen is unraveling in the southeastern state.
What is happening in Imo State is too serious that Imo State looks like it's becoming a banana republic where there's complete lawlessness.
While topping the charts is the dismantling of a police checkpoint by the Commissioner of Police in Edo State.